I love people. Like, people are fascinating to me. I think sometimes I think about it and it trips me out. Like, if you think about how many people are on the planet, there's like an entire universe inside of each and every one of us that you could explore infinitely. It's pretty wild.
Like, one person talking about Sandra, their band was Sandra Saloon, and it's like the concept that each person has their own path and everything that they did. I think about that too. When I walk by houses and I'm like, this house represents that person's existence, their neighbors, what they thought about, their challenges, and that's their story. I go next one now, boom. I go to a different area, boom. Okay, different story here. This person has that neighbor that maybe bugs them, or they thought about this, or they do architecture. Or
yeah, and then the history of that place and all the people who've been there.
Get out of my thoughts, Kat. Get out of my thoughts. Okay. Unbelievable. Hello and welcome to episode number 279 of the Armin Show podcast, where it is always different and not the same, which are different ways of saying the same thing. On this episode, she is an actress. She has done production. She, I find, to be thoughtful, and joins us on this one. Kat Fairaway, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I am also, I've heard this is your first podcast. Highly recommended. All people, 9 out of 10 dentists, including I just had a dentist on the show. They recommend having your first episode on this show. It's good for health, cardiovascular system. Keeps you really just the momentum and thought. There's a lot of benefits. I'm just talking positively about the show. This is a great thing. Now,
Did you really have a dentist on the podcast?
I thank you. And yes, I have had my first dentist on the podcast. I knew him indirectly through someone I met many years ago, and he has his own practice. For all the people, I should try to link things up more. After this one, check the previous episode. He runs his own practice in Glendale, California, and is a holistic biological dentist, Dr. Joseph Sarkisian. Yeah.
Dr. who?
Dr. Joseph Sarkisian.
Amazing.
Yes. Frankly, actually, he is of Armenian background like me, from Cyprus. I'm Armenian from Iran. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? And maybe later on, in connection to that, I've seen the clip you have done of doing a certain accent from a certain part of your background. If we can bring that back, that'd be exciting. But can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, my dad is Scottish. So my dad is from Glasgow. He moved to America when he was 30 to climb the Sierra Mountains, and then he just never moved back. And then he met my mom. So that's been a huge part of my life, and I ended up living there for a year when I studied abroad. And then that was my first lead in a feature film, was a Scottish character, I think, because I could do the accent, which is exciting. Yeah.
Whoa, there's a lot of interesting there. Is the character, by the way, that you did the same character that you did in like a clip online?
Yes.
Morag? It's the same character.
Oh, Morag. No. Oh,
no,
I made her up. Yeah.
But you were able to so you can do a full Scottish accent.
I can. I mean, I don't know if actual Scottish people would buy my accent, because I think it's a little bit of like an amalgamation of different regions, but.
Well, I just want to throw in the dentist from the past episode wouldn't use amalgams, which are also amalgamations. I had to throw that in for purposes. But have you been to Glasgow? And do you like that region?
I'm gonna close this window because there's like a leaf blower.
Leaf blowers are not supported by the Armin Show podcast. Let me include that part. If there's a leaf blower and you want to bring it as your sidekick on an episode, somebody else in the future, we don't support it.
I thought that they were not allowed in California, but then they still are everywhere, and they're the bane of my existence.
They sound like, and now they're the bane of our show's existence. We are banning leaf blowers from future episodes. You're banned.
Yeah.
We cleared them out. Your dad is Scottish, and then wait. So have you been to Glasgow?
I have been to Glasgow, but I didn't really spend that much time there because Where I was studying was on the opposite side of the country in St. Andrews, just north of Edinburgh. So yeah, I went through Glasgow, but because I'm an introvert, especially even more so at that time, I just passed through and then ended up going to the Isle of Skye. So I still want to explore more of Glasgow, but I would like to explore it with someone who's from there so they can kind of show me around. And
this is where I throw a shout out to Mary Mullen, who's been on the show multiple times. She lives in Glasgow and is a solid representation of said region. And what a cool region.
What does she do?
She is a costume designer. She has worked at Scottish Ballet for a good chunk of time, and they have costumes. I'm great at description, by the way. I was recently voted really good at describing things, but that is what she does.
And that's awesome.
Scottish Ballet, which I think last year had their 50th anniversary, and also her colleague friend Eve, who's been on the show. She was a dancer who has danced for Scottish Ballet and is part of Estonian National Opera, but she is now back in Estonia. Things happening on the planet. This is an interesting thing we had been discussing earlier. Each person on the planet having their own story, their own path, they're all linked in some form, and then through time.
Infinite. Crazy.
The amount of stuff happening all at the same moment is uncharted territory.
Out of control.
We never had even this many, like we had 4 billion people, I think, on the earth in 1980 or 70, somewhere around there. So even the numbers of people.
That just scares me.
We're just going to place another 3.5 billion on the planet. All right. Have a good time, everybody. That is true. It's something.
It's wild.
Now, that's from your dad's side. What about your mom's side?
My mom is, okay, so I did one of those tests.
Could have been any kind. We have so many tests in 2020, but no longer the SAT required.
I did the 23andMe.
Okay.
So she's, basically it's exactly what I was told, but it was just validated through, DNA.
We're all wondering, what were you told?
She's half Italian. Like, I think it was like actually more than half. It was like 60% from the Sicilian region. So watch out.
Watch out. You know what? Well, I'm so strong.
And then there was mostly, the rest was Irish, I think. Wow, there's a dragonfly outside my window. That's really unusual.
Also banned from the, no, I'm kidding. They're fine. They're not leaf blowers. But we thought about it recently, Dragonflies are huge.
And then there was, oh, this isn't adding up. I'm off with the numbers, but there was also 17% Jewish on my mom's side, which is one thing odd because I don't know how they track Judaism. Jewish is not complicated, but anyway.
17%, exactly 17. So people who were thinking of 16 or 18%, they're wrong. But right, that's true. There's like breakdowns. So a good chunk is Northern European and some European middle.
But I'm just European. I'm a mix of European.
Fair. UK and local regions, and then the middle. And some Sicilian. So watch out, everybody. I don't know if you noticed that part, but watch out, because Sicilians. What do Sicilians do, Kat, that people should be watching out for?
I don't know. I just hear they're, dangerous people.
Well, this is a dangerous show, so you came on the right one. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
You never know what's going to happen out of nowhere. There's going to be a external hard drive makes its way through the episode. Out of nowhere with 5 terabytes.
No, but I've never been to Sicily. I actually also lived in Italy in Tuscany for a summer,
Hmm.
to kind of revisit my roots. And but I didn't make it to Sicily, and I've heard it's really gorgeous and quite amazing. So I'd love to go.
Well, at that point, you would be officially dangerous, which currently you're not because you have not gone there.
Have you been there?
No, I've not. I'm just default dangerous by default, but I've not
Okay.
been to Sicily. But you've been to parts of Italy.
Yeah, all over. I really like Italy a lot.
Now, speaking of countries, while we're on the topic of countries, before getting into some of the material you create creatively for the public and whatnot, but first, country related,
Yeah.
you have been to some countries. When you think of locations around the planet that have had some impact on you, as far as thought, what they mean to you, people you met, something along those lines, what countries come to mind or what places at first?
Oh, wow. Portugal is huge for me. I fell in love with Portugal when I went.
Why?
Oh my God. I don't know. It's hard to describe the terrain, like there are cliffs and ocean, and I just felt like the people are very warm, but also not, you know, like I just remember there not really being much advertising, and that struck me. That you kind of could just be like we were talking about, just being
Hmm.
and laid back and just kind of um, explore, and I
What?
just found it to be very like romantic, and I just love it. Yeah.
You were one with nature when you were there.
Yeah, but even in the city, like even in Lisbon, um, I found it very easy to just wander and explore and be.
You know, I have to just, I wanted to include this, but I'm going to bring it about the being. I noticed this. I want to bring this up because it's an important topic. I am being as a person. You are being as a person. Often I look at many individuals that it looks a little bit more frantic. It looks a little bit like I'm not fully there, but the good thing is over there, but it's never actually there. And what comes to mind for you about this topic of being? Have you always felt at ease? Do you feel at ease? How do you associate with the concept of just being and being like a being good?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've grown up with. Luckily, had parents and um, family who I think really embraced that idea, and not even in like a spiritual way necessarily, but just we did a lot of camping and went into nature, and um, for them, like, you know, they didn't have much handed to them. None of my family has. And so I think the balance of having to work so hard gave perspective of what what is actually valuable in life. And so um, the just being part comes in because I think I just observed them like, what is the point of chasing? Um, Often people who have the most physically in the worldly sense um, internally are the messiest, most confused individuals. Not necessarily. I mean, some people find a way, which is amazing, I think, because I don't think, you know, I've come to a place where I'm not, I love worldly things. I love materialism in a certain sense. I mean, we all need certain things to get by, but um, if you don't have that being, then none of it really matters. But it's, you know, it's easier to talk about. I think that's a big reason why there's so much mental illness in America. And that's a huge topic, but it reminds me of this philosopher. I think his name's Alan de Longbottom.
Okay.
Have you heard of him?
I'm gonna say no, oddly enough. How have I not heard of him?
He has a YouTube channel called The School of Life,
School of
which is
Life.
great.
I know the School of Life. How is it? It must be a different School of Life, because there's a School of Life by, I think, Srinivas Rao, but that's a different things like that. No.
Oh.
Huh. Okay.
But yeah, no, he wrote a book called The Social Anxiety, and he had this series of shows, I think on the BBC or some kind of, you know, he's British, and he covered like each ancient Greek philosopher and sort of what their teachings can show us in the modern day. And it's worth checking out, because he really talked about how in advertising, like, there are basically 4 or 5 themes of what they're trying to sell us, which is like friendship, nature, sex, and a couple other things, or like youth and beauty, like which is vitality, I don't know. And just that they're using what's inherently ours and basically telling us that we don't have it, that it's out there somewhere, but it's actually us that has it. And it's very different from, like, if we actually want those things, we can pretty easily create them. But then we get tricked into thinking that we have to buy something in order to have it. It's a whole mess.
You just made me think of specifically related to that, which is kind of also related to something later that when I noticed it, that's when I reached out to you in the first place. I saw a Gary V post thing that you put up.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned before, when he was young, this relates perfect. Watch these analogies, everybody. Watch out for this. When he was young, he would steal flowers from a person's house and then sell them back to them, and they would buy them because he was young and it was nice and whatnot. But that's not that different from what you're describing. The flowers were there, they were in their yard, they already had them. He went, did some sort of, we'll call it marketing, and boom, they were like, oh, it'll pay you $5 for these flowers, which I already had in the first place, thus putting myself into a hole I didn't even have prior to this. But they apparently didn't see what they had, kind of thing. The analogy's off the charts right here. And
yeah, it is, actually. Wow.
Thank you.
He's a little shit for doing that. I can't believe he did that.
Well, it's part of, it's a different category of, business and marketing slightly it has that, but he was young. He was a little guy. So everybody's like, all right, we'll buy them. But a not as, cute version of that is the advertising or whatever industry that takes, what is the thing we can poke at or pull from that you don't feel up to par in, or we can create a feeling of you not being up to par. And then here's our thing that is in one of these 5 categories you described, for example, that you can purchase from us and you'll be okay for a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't actually solve the issue, but we'll be back in 2 weeks with version 2.0 or the other one, or subscription. And it's not they're not there for your well-being.
Right.
Sometimes when I cover a topic that's like a big chunk, like what we just covered is like a huge chunk of some people's existence, and they're not feeling good. Like that was enough. There's other topics in life, but like that one is there's some people that maybe 80% of their day is impacted by, I got a thing in the car that I bought, actually owns me. I bought it, but I have to take care of it. It means so much to me. If someone scratched it, now I'm like worse off than I was before I even had the car. And that's not being. What do you think about this concept? I've talked about being be the most important. If you don't have that, you go into doing, which is sort of frantic, but you try to do as much as you can to get little feelings of being. And then if you're not doing much, the lowest one is having. So you have like possessions that just like when you buy them or occasionally they make you feel a little bit like you have or are doing. but for the most part, I mean, that you're being or doing, but for the most part, your possessions do barely anything for you while they're just sitting there. About that concept.
I like that. I haven't thought in that sequence, but I really like that a lot. So that's useful.
It's like a gradient of what is valuable. Now, before people are like, Armin, you tangent more than tangents from like calculus. Can you tell us a bit about your, I guess we'll call it functional background as an actress and producer? How did you get into that category? And also, for my interest, does it relate to, like when you were very little, did you see it like already as a category that would suit you based on your connection with emotions or presentational nature or something like that?
I just want to say before we move on that Gary V is amazing, and I'm sorry I didn't think of reselling flowers to other people. I think I'm just a little jealous that he thought of that idea. I love flowers. No, I really love him a lot, and he's had a big impact on my life. But yeah, into me, my story, how I've kind of, So I remember watching Gone with the Wind when I was little.
The top grossing movie of all time, adjusted for value. I recently found out like a month ago.
Yeah. And I didn't know any of that, but I was like 5 years old, and I would sit quietly through the whole movie, it's a long movie. It's very long. And so I think it was just in my nature to really like, this huge story arc, and it's very grand, and it's like you go to a different world and there's different costumes, and it has a lot to do with history, and I love that. And I think I was just very much attracted to, like what I was talking about earlier, like fascinated by the human being and the infinite world that's inside of each individual, and how each one of us plays a different role in a movie, or that's the art that happened to be most enthralling to me. And yeah, for sure, like it was very evident. At that age, like I would put on a CD and make everyone sit down on the couch and force them to listen to me. Like I would like lip sync and dance around, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And then I ended up starting voice lessons when I was 7.
Oh.
And I studied voice for 11 years, and that was a huge part of like me becoming an artist and loving standing in front of people and giving them an experience. And I saw how it affected people. And even at a little age, like I think my first recital, I was 8 years old, and I sang Loch Lomond, which is a Scottish folk song. And there were grown women in the audience crying over me singing the song. I'm like, what in the world? I mean, this is really amazing that I can move people. And it happened to be something that came very natural to me. And so, I pursued it very strongly, and I loved it. I still love it, music very much. And yeah, and then I just kept doing it. And my parents are crazy enough to encourage me.
That's crazy. Okay, I'll give them a call because of what they have done. This is unbelievable.
They created a monster.
Hello, yes, she's continued for years now. I don't know where this motivation and support came from.
Can't help myself.
Right. She's doing it now on her own, not even related with you guys. That is, so in one way you're introverted, but then when it comes to maybe showcasing, or if you have an impact on people, that's out the door suddenly, and you are impacting.
Well, yeah, I mean, I find it so irritating that this notion that artists or performers have to be extroverts, because it's just not the case. I mean, there are people who are extroverts who are, and you see them and they're very, they love to go out and meet tons of new people and whatever, like that's their thing.
That's me.
But in the context of art, it's different because there's parameters. So I go on stage and I know the rules, you know what I mean? Like, they listen and I do my thing, and that's how it is. You know, I think it's different for I think why a performer can transcend that, the sense of feeling like an extrovert or not, is because when you're in performance, you're transcending your personality, which actually ties into how I think about art, which is very much like a very transcendent spiritual. I mean, that's how I get I think my meaning from existence is through art. And it's not true for every artist, but for me, like, the ability to create another human being and really imagine that I'm becoming and empathizing so much with someone else's story that I'm going to embody them as if I'm also almost giving life to a different soul, like a different spirit. It's like the coolest thing. It's like, so, I don't know.
Are you awakening another part of yourself in that way? Is it like you are adding an element of them that they can see? What is that part?
I think it's both. You know, I think it's like telling a story for all the people who will feel like their story is being told, like giving voice to anyone who would resonate with it, but also searching within myself and acknowledging that if I had had different life experiences, if I had been born under and walked each step that this person walked, maybe I would have ended up like this. And really, in that way, it like liberates an individual from feeling like they're fixed into, I am Kat Fairaway, I am, you know, limited by my experience or whatever.
Right. It's like, without that, well, this was your thing and this was your little room to be in. Whereas with this, you can go into that room also, and then that room, and check out that one. That's true. Without that, suddenly now you're just in one room. You know there's something over there, there's doors and stuff, but, well, I'll just not know. That's true, huh? That's not as appealing. It's like branching out that you can only do through other people and their stories. It's like you're connecting with the human condition in a way.
Yeah, totally. And it's fun. It's play. I mean, it's what children do naturally. And I think it's what Marlon Brando said this in his book, Songs My Mother Taught Me, but just that he believes that, or he knows that everybody acts all the time, whether you think you do or not. We do. To get what we want, to appease, to, you know, get by. Like, that's the human being.
This is true. Kat has outed me. I'm actually a rapper. I'm pretending to be a podcast host at this time, but I've been killing the game out here. I have like, I mean, I have made a lot of raps, but this is a valid, I have like 300 or something on my computer from years ago. I have rapped for many years. Oh, that's a good one actually, dude. Classic. I always like to bring out some. If I do a random rap right now, Kat, would you join me in singing something afterwards? That would be great. It would be a good, like, a 1-2.
Gosh.
I'll
You're
start
putting
with
me on the spot.
yes, but it's not really on the spot because beforehand I am doing a full rap from nowhere. So mine is just also on, I'm joining you on the spot on the stage, which is where introverts and extroverts can join because we are bringing forth our art regardless of our internal condition, walking into a door of a new cool place. And my rap is going to be about not only the upcoming singing that's happening after it, but also the ability to just be yourself in the moment. Shout outs to Kat and this rap. Should I pull up a beat? No, too much risk, because they're gonna Dr. Dre will call me, hey, you used my beat. Unbelievable on your show. Obviously it'll be great for Dr. Dre to call me, but so we'll put that aside with no beat. So Kat's on the show. I used to be a rapper, now I've switched up my plans. Where are all the clappers to support what I'm doing? The standing ovation, I'm rapping so quickly. Could I lead this nation? Possibly, but not until I hear the song, the singing that's coming soon. Kat's over there. She's like, he's not rapping like a buffoon. He's got some intellectual nature and is flowing without any sort of instrumental. How does he do it? Is he using his physical? No, he is using his mental. All right, and now I introduce.
That's hardly.
Say again. It's hard to follow. Oh, let me do a rap that but it's easy to follow. So I go to the store and I can't even rhyme properly. And now I came back with no skills. Oh, what a terrible rap. Easy to follow. That one is, wow, that's the easiest act ever to follow. It didn't even rhyme. So it's like a broken poem. Kat, would you follow my just terrible rap because with some form of singing that we could all take in?
Trying to think of what song to sing. How boring of me. I guess.
It's thoughtful, okay? What she called boring was called thoughtful, everybody. She tried to turn it around like it was boring.
Okay. Well, I sing this one a lot when people put me on the spot to sing, so I guess I'll just sing it. But not the whole thing.
Okay, so this is the one you would choose, not because it's on the spot, but this is of great choosing.
I like how you keep reframing for me.
Reframing right here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Well, everybody forgot about my rap. That was nice. Okay, that's cool. All right, let's take in the moment.
Thanks for inviting me to sing. I appreciate it.
Glad to.
Gets me out of my shell.
Yes, put these shells aside and only around those that can, actually this relates, boy, everything in life relates. You had, do I have it? Something about shells. Oh, okay. So you had mentioned once in the Gary Vee post about non-supporters and blocking things out unless someone knows you inside and out and has your back 100%, or it's just opinions that are noise. This is a key point. So getting out of your shell, for example, I consider myself darn good to get out of your shell around. But the average, let's say, because of those elements, but if it's not fully there, they're not fully with you. They don't even know you, and they're not fully with you. And then you're getting, it is noise. It's either not for you or it's their own, it's not on your team, you know? There's something on your team and then there's external. And so, yeah, the getting out of your shell with the right people is one of the coolest things in existence.
100%. And I remember when I graduated college, one of my professors said to me, the key for me, like the lesson she wanted me to take away into living life in the real world, was to find my people. And I think someone I'm really close with now said this concept that I hadn't really thought about, and he's Jewish, and I think it's like it's in the Torah or the Talmud or something, but it basically says that doubt is the root of all evil. And I think that when you're hearing those messages, sometimes it can, for me personally, feel like, oh, am I missing something? Like maybe my perception of reality is not normal. Maybe my map is off. Maybe I need to listen to this information. And that the root of that is self-doubt. And when I'm really listening to whether it's aligned or not, if it's resonating or not, that you can feel the difference. Whether it's like a closing off of the internal vision that my being is attempting to create. Is it aligned with that or not? And yeah, I think taking into consideration like who is giving you that message, that's a big key ingredient.
I noticed that. I don't know, I can't find it for some reason. I also taken one of your quotes that was about doubt specifically, which would have been really handy right here, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's an older one.
But when you get that feeling of doubt, and I will summarize it slightly like this. I've got many comments over the years that had like, I was like, that's discouraging. And then every single one of them I realized was that person talking to themselves through me doing something that themselves wasn't doing. Every single time. It's kind of, and after the fact, there's no like, I told you so. You're just like, why did we have to go through that at all? But they're just like, I have doubt, and they hope that it sticks on you. But if you don't let it, then they'll look for somebody else for it to stick on, or maybe rethink like, wait a minute, I could believe in myself a little bit more and build my thing.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't get those reinforcing, something's off. There should be that connected point, or else that's not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. And there are enough people that you can find the ones who will be on the same page with you. So
that's true. With life being a book, everybody, and there are pages. Some people are on the same pages. This is for the really visual listener out there. Oh, okay, same.
Oh, wait. Get it. Sorry, got a phone call.
For about 1 second, we were not on the same page because the screen.
Just to drive that point home.
Yeah. Just for a second. Where? Kat nowhere to be found. Is Kat short for Kat?
I want to know what that was, the thing I wrote about doubt.
Right. It was, I seriously thought I quoted it, but it's not showing up in my quotes.
Do you have like a little note? You have like notes you're referring to?
I don't want to, showcase anything behind the scenes, but notes are key. Not only notes, sometimes this was a thing I was doing for a couple of months. I was journaling while talking with people in a book. While talking with people, I was journaling.
Oh.
One of the most useful things I did. I'll probably bring it back because how about getting somewhere with people and figuring out things versus letting the conversation just float by? And that's good, but there's some real benefits that came from actually like, oh, this was worthwhile. This was a good thing. This is something that the more thought we put in, we make those moments valuable versus they just float away. And then a year later, we're like, there's not that much that I could be doing that's going on. There's plenty. You just let it all float away. There's flowers in your garden that you could have sold to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think someone I really love said, we get rewarded for the things that we practice in private. That's another way of saying what you just said. You know, it's like it's inevitable that if you put time and attention towards something, you'll be rewarded for it. It's the value exchange. And time and attention, I think, is the highest valued currency.
I agree with this. We only have this much. I always tell people it's this much, which they're like, that you're mocking life. It's not that short. But actually, when you blink, 10 years goes by. Blink, 10 years goes by. That's a life. There you go. It's not a blink. That's all. Now, which is something else. It's always a constant reminder. Life will give you more of a punch than any other person can. So looking at life is a great way to keep in order and, I guess, discipline or whatnot, because it just keeps reminding you somehow. You have been on, my segues are completely non-segues, but you have been on multiple, I don't know if the shows, programs, we'll call them. They are on Amazon or Lifetime. They include 3, where are my notes? I don't get it. Where's the chunk of my notes that were there? I am firing. You guys are fired. Seriously, all 4. Why are you still here? I thought I kicked you out. 6 of you. I don't know where they went. Can you tell us about some of the, oh, wait. They were here. They're just, I couldn't scroll down there. I probably have the doubt here too. Let me see. Unbelievable. Oh, there it is. Okay, it was all there. It's just I couldn't, I started using Notion instead of Evernote, by the way, for note taking. Do you journal in some form?
I do. Yeah.
Is it written or typed?
It's written.
Okay.
Unless all I have is my phone, and then sometimes it has to be blurted out on my, notes or whatever.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
But I like everything handwritten. I mean, I know everything needs to be on, technology now in order to keep it, but I prefer the old school.
I want to give a shout out to Kat and present that I have written stuff on a journal as well, and I highly support that. There's something healthy about it. It feels way like you're with existence.
It just feels better. I know one of my best friends, her mom, who's like a second mom to me, she likes to keep calendars like the old way, like on a big piece of paper, the big calendars or whatever. And my friend Chloe is always like, Mom, you can't keep a calendar like that. Like you can't do that. It's not allowed anymore. Like you have to do it on your phone. You have to do it on whatever. And I empathize with that resistance because I feel it too. Like,
Kat, you can't keep writing on paper. There are now electronic devices that you can press your thumb with, and somehow it's more efficient.
Get them away. Like if I had it my way, I would just have someone else do all the technology.
And all the editing. Shout outs to podcast. What is editing and why is that a part of it? Oh, cut this thing, move this. Right. We share that element of like, how about we can get to the people-based aspect of these things and skip out the, which is good because as technology gets better and better and better, these things, boom. 5 years from now, I can talk to somebody who's in China and he talks Chinese or she and talks back to me and I translate it automatically, and human to human connection even better. Things like this, right? We can skip all the middle steps. I don't like these middle steps. They're slow. They're very slow.
Yeah, tedious.
Look, my vocab is limited now. Tedious is good. Yes, it's taxing. I like people in connection, similar to yourself. You like people. This is the quote, by the way, about that. It's not exactly a quote, but my description of it was that some people who are depressed pick apart life through their view, like filter of doubt, and they could use a change of what they value instead. So they're always taking into account doubt, and they talk like with like a no mindset about what they could do, what could work. What are your thoughts on doubt?
I remember that post very vividly. I wrote that after Anthony Bourdain committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it really bothered me. It really upset me. And it also brought up the memory of Robin Williams too, and how, and it goes back to what we were saying about being and doing. And if I place my sense of value of my human life on what I'm doing or what I'm having instead of who I'm being, then it's inevitable that you can pick apart your existence to the point where you're like, this has no meaning. What's the point? It's done. I want out. And that also reminds me of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, which has had like such a huge impact on me as well. And I re-listen to parts of it all the time because I just feel like if someone could come out of that with a sense of meaning, then I have no excuse. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah. So, yeah.
I actually included that also. I believe this was related to that. All can be taken from a person, but the ability to choose their attitude in any given set of circumstances. And then you are drawn to people who have experienced a lot of pain and don't run away and collapse because life is too much for them. So they go at it. Like Jay-Z said, don't run from the pain, go towards it.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done because our nature is like, avoid the pain. You know, and there's a good balance. Like, you gotta be gentle with the self and stuff, but yeah. Wow, I really appreciate that you went through all my little musings and stuff, because I wonder sometimes, like, are people just liking these pictures or are they actually listening to what I'm expressing? So it's cool.
Well, I have information. There's good news and bad news. I'll go with bad news first, so it leads up to the good news. Bad news is, good. Are you ready for it? Because I can make it 2 layers of bad news and a good news. You know, most of like releases of stuff, press releases, like thing and then thing, and there's so much build up to like marketing, but that's a different category. The bad news is, sadly, a lot of people are liking the pictures just for the pictures. Sorry, I can't help it. It's a good chunk of our society. I don't know. Long live everybody. On the other hand, this makes the good news even better. Shout outs to the good news. Everybody ready for this one? I hope so, because it's coming real 80 miles an hour. I and some, I'll call it a minority, are, not only do I look for it, but I'm even more so, like, I've always been kind of text oriented. I like seeing the messages because I like to see what can I take from this? What are the thoughts? Where's the person here? There's only so much I can do with a picture. It's a picture. Like, there's only so much I can. But some people, it's just, they're more visually and it's just joy and whatnot. But for me, it's very limited. Instagram has always been a little bit, from the first day when I opened Instagram, it's not the reaction most people have. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. It took me like a month before, like, I'm like, I still don't know what I'm looking at. I saw like a Justin Timberlake showing his award, and that was the whole post, and everybody was like, fire emoji or something. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at here. I came from Twitter where people are like writing quotes and thoughts and stuff. So it confused me for a long time, but I get it. It's a different like kind of mindset on it. But back to what you were saying, no tangents here. The small select crew, your people, as described earlier, actually look at those things and frankly almost only see those things. So no offense to all your other, that's great. But I really focus on the messages, the quotes, the thoughts, because the rest to me kind of disappears. It's like
transient.
Mm-hmm. it's Gone with the Wind, puns all day. And my old blog in 2008, 9, 10, 11 was called Timeless Information, because I like things that have like something from 1500 years ago that's still accurate. Our brains didn't change that much in the last 2000 years. They still have the same neurotransmitters. Like, humans have barely altered in that form. So I like to look at those things versus like something that 5 years later, that person looks different, or they present themselves like, that's what was I connecting with? So
Yeah.
small food, Kat. How do you feel about that from the other end?
I love that. Yeah. I think that's a lot of what ancient teachings were trying to point at, you know? That's why I go to those teachings a lot when I'm seeking a sense of groundedness. But yeah, it's like all the things that inevitably will go are maybe less valuable or less significant. But I do think we can communicate in pictures, and you know, there are some, it's just we're over, you know, it's like overly saturated now, for sure.
Yes, I will add that in here. It's like I was roasting images and videos. Let's get rid of these. I don't know what people are doing, but it should be removed. And they're using more data anyway. Text takes way less data for all the networks. Let's clear out pictures. Let's clear out videos. When we get to virtual reality and like it's a hologram or it's visual in your mind, okay. But until we skip to then, just gonna skip a couple of steps.
No, totally. Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's different, and it's cool. I mean, everyone has a different preference, you know? Some people like reading, some people absorb information through kinesthetics in their body.
Oh, of all those different categories, text-based, picture, video, kinesthetic, what has been your dominant way of taking things in that has the most resonance?
I think audio and probably music, like sound is, I'm very, yeah, sound, probably. Like listening to people talk and listening to music and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm kind of insatiable. I love it all. Like I love films and visuals and communicating that way with color and tone and light, and like I just, everything creative I can get down on. I mean, I'm just very excited about life, I think, in general, like a baby. Just like, this is crazy. Yeah.
That concept is key. Whenever I hear, like, I think of like a baby, I think of, you know, high plasticity, ability to take in new information, not rigid, looking out with things that they're as though they're interesting, and like the opposite of those who take on too much doubt or regret over years. And it's sort of like they package it in themselves. Here's doubt and here's regret and here's doubt, and they're like in this little thing. Versus it's not that. Long live these visuals I'm creating, and now you're like able to move around like little kids. And it's kind of like Mr. Kanye West when he talked about, you know, kids when they grow up, there's like a coffee table and their parents tell them, don't play around that. That's a coffee table. You'll break it. And then everything in their life becomes a coffee table. And it's like, it was fun before. Now it's not fun anymore. They're constricted. That's not a feeling. No. Now, I want to mention a few of these shows, and can you let us know what they represent to you, or not what they represent, but how has the experience gone on? For example, Psycho Escort.
Oh my God. Yeah, Psycho Escort was my second Lifetime movie. It was a great experience filming, and it was just very fun. I really loved the actors I got to work with, the makeup artist, the costume designer. You know, everybody on set is super warm, super loving. The director is a woman, which was very exciting for me. And, you know, I mean, it's a Lifetime movie. It's one of those kind of thrilling romance turned scary movies. And I happen to play the younger sister of the main character. So I'm kind of the relief from the tension.
Oh, imagine that. Okay. Now, one thing in movies, have you been in a certain role, or do you desire a certain type of role, or end up in a certain type, or has it been not that way?
I don't notice a pattern yet because I haven't. I mean, I you know, I've been cast in movies for a couple of years now.
Kidnapped by a Classmate, Letters from the Heart.
Yeah, they're totally different characters. Like they're all very Psycho Escort, I'm like a nerdy psychology student, college psychology student. They're all facets of me though. Well, I guess not necessarily. Kidnapped by a Classmate, I play a drug dealer's girlfriend who's like abused and lost, and she's an addict herself. She has really low self-esteem and all that. Saving Hope or Letters from the Heart, I play a businesswoman out in the city, and my grandmother dies, and she gives me this very strange ultimatum, and I end up finding love, and I fight for what I believe in and what I value. And then Jessie the Golden Heart is the first lead of a feature I did, and she's a Scottish true life character who is a servant who realizes she's not a servant, but then can't end up being with the man that she loves. So it's a little, yeah, I mean, the pattern there, but they're all very like, it makes sense why I was cast that way, I think. I think we all embody different archetypes and energies. And I'm still figuring out, like what you were saying earlier, marketing and castability. But my dream in life is basically to be a character actress who gets to explore, you know, a vastly different variety of characters, which is uncommon for a young, attractive woman. Usually we get put into a type, and that's that. I mean, that's typical in Hollywood in general. Like people get put into a type, and it's hard to see them outside of that thing.
You would like to branch. You don't want to be stuck to this one branch. You like a variety of branches as far as roles.
Want to do everything.
Right.
No limits. No, I mean, obviously there are limits, but
or are there? We don't support limits on this one. We don't support dragonflies. What is it? The leaf blowers and limits. Okay. Because what are these things? Every once in a while we have these limits, and then 2 years later somebody else does it. And you know who's the person who most doesn't like that person who did it? The person who heavily believed in the limit and thought, well, I thought that was the rule. And then that person did it. I don't like them. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, I don't like myself for putting this block. We shouldn't say no to ourselves. That's not a great way to go about things. One thing I had taken into, I like your, by the way, shout outs to good energy. I have to point these things as they're occurring because I'm so in the moment, it's ridiculous. Meta on top of meta. You have you're there.
What?
You're there.
Oh, I'm here.
It's not like people hear this like, yeah, she's there, okay. But no, I mean like, it's nice. Your thoughtful nature, it's highly appreciated. I don't even like the word appreciated because it's like a boring word to me, sort of, but it's that. Something about the word just bores me. Just saying I feel like bored. But it's it's a very nice quality. You don't have to have that. Maybe like, Kat, something. Yeah, well, I want to have exactly this role, and it could be very constricted. That's what I'm saying. I like to bring the counterpoint because people get spoiled. They hear us and they think like, wow, things are just, the world is looking up. No, this is not so common. This is atypical, and it's good to represent. But if you go outside, you're not seeing this casually, okay? And if you were, the whole world got real altered real quickly because I see very little of.
That's the goal, though.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome.
One thing you had mentioned was you did some sort of, you like flowers. I also like flowers.
Me too.
You did some, do you have a favorite flower?
Oh my gosh, that's difficult. Probably the rose, like an old garden heirloom English rose.
That's cool. I like sunflowers and I like sage. Sage smells good also as a, it's not a flower. But
sage is really good.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned that, and then you like daydreaming and breathing. Have you meditated in some form, which kind of connects with what I was just describing of just the nice feeling? Have you done any of that to get yourself into a clearer headspace somehow, if that was even a place?
Yeah, I love to meditate. I meditate. I've studied a bunch of different types of meditation. I studied Zen meditation, Kundalini yoga, which has a lot of different mantras and chants. I studied transcendental meditation, which is probably the one I most consistently use, is like the internal mantra. 20 minutes twice a day. And then I also have just done, like sitting quietly, observing the breath. And I've done the Buddhist meditation, the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo chanting, which is awesome. Really love that too. So yeah, meditation's awesome.
I have to throw that in relation to that. I forgot that I was there. I had one student that was in, I had students in Pacific Palisades area, and one of them, their mom ran a Buddhist meditation group thing. So sometimes I'd be working with them, and in the background, boom, I'm hearing that. And they would really, with like lots and lots of people doing that, it gets pretty full. The room gets really full. I hadn't experienced that till then. So
yeah, it's really powerful. I mean, there are all these, I think it's SGI.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was their thing.
Yeah, and you can just go and it's free and you can chant with other people and it's really powerful. Like you feel energized and elevated.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing for someone listening in, like, how is everybody keeping up with the timing of this ridiculously well with each other? Because everybody was doing the same part of the chant at the same time for like minutes. Nobody was missing a beat.
Well, it's an ancient way of getting into a transcendent state, and singing or chanting together in a large group, you're all in this same thing. It's similar to, I mean, all ancient cultures have done either that or psychedelics, or they'll get into a trance state by drumming or making music and dancing. But there are all these habits that humans have always had to connect with something bigger than, the self, the limited story that we tell ourselves about who we are and what we need to do during the day. It's like, I think Alan Watts talks about that too. Like,
What did you say?
What
did Alan Watts say?
The gist is like, we're so hungry to know who we are and define who we are, but then we're all seeking to forget who we are in order to feel free of that. Like, that's what we're all hungering for, is whatever it is that allows us to escape ourselves in a way. He definitely didn't say it like that. He said it way more eloquently.
Not as eloquently. Alan Watts would have tried to get it like that.
No, but it sounded more eloquent because he has an English accent.
Oh, right. Gosh, anything with, you can say like, you know, pour me some water, and it's another, fill me some water. Okay, great. Now we're gonna have a sophisticated, it's a different level. It changes anything into,
It really
yeah,
does.
I will do my British. If you can bring Scottish, we are now in the UK. How do you do, young lady, Miss? I don't know. How do you do?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. I just got back from Yorkshire. Where have you been this afternoon?
Oh, I live in the country, so it's nice to see someone I've never met before. How's it going? You all right?
This is true. It is going all right because our part of the nation owns your part of the nation.
I don't want to get into that. It's probably best for me to keep my mouth shut.
I've just got to represent that way so I can feel up and mighty.
Yeah.
I have a better accent that's sort of like a, I don't know, whatever Borat is, but this is good. You are doing good in the Scottish accent. You did number one. Keep it up, and then we can both be in a movie film.
That accent's so classic. Sacha Baron Cohen is like genius.
We're the same personality type in the Myers-Briggs system, so indirectly you just call me a genius. Thank you. Thank you. That's appreciated. Kidding. But he's solid. He's solid in his form of coming up with things on the spot. One thing that
Yeah.
does, well, there's a lot of things that come to my mind. Can you tell I have an active mind? I don't know. Possibly. One thing is, do you listen to, what are your thoughts on podcasts? Do you listen to other ones? You're audio oriented. It seems like you do. I feel like she does. This is my guess. And let's find out.
I mean, of course, listen to Joe Rogan.
Mhm.
You know, who doesn't?
Right.
I love Russell Brand's podcast lately. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time. He also studied Kundalini yoga. That's kind of how he came onto my radar. And then he recently wrote a book about addiction and recovery. So I read it and I thought it was really good. He's really cool. I also, if you like movies and Hollywood, there's a podcast called You Must Remember This. And it's like very historical and about different times in Hollywood and different people. And there's, I think, 6 or 7 episodes focused on Charles Manson and his involvement in Hollywood and kind of the goings on. And it's a really great pairing with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you're not familiar with the actual history of that time period and what happened with all of those characters, it's a really amazing way to get more information. But there are so many more episodes that are just amazing. Those are the ones that come to mind, but I listen to a lot.
Mm-hmm. Do you usually listen to them audio based or with the video? Do you watch, or is it more just audio?
I listen to the audio. I don't sit and watch.
Mm-hmm. This is part of the popularity of podcasts in 2020. You can be doing anything, and there they are in the background, not affecting 100%. At all.
Walking, whatever.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to change what you were doing already.
Yeah.
One thing that came to mind earlier, psychedelics. Have you tried any of these things? Have you network connected your brain in different ways, or not tried, and then you're just thinking, this could be?
Yeah, I've definitely explored with.
Tell us about what kind of impacts you noticed.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was raised atheist. My dad is a big science person.
Shout outs to your dad, also frontiersman, went in the mountains, something like that.
And I mean, he still is a big science person. And I just remember this, like, I was super into, in high school, I was super into Dawkins, and so like just looked down on people who had a sense of spirituality and something of beyondness. And it left me feeling very alone, and like life was just chaos, that the universe is disorganized and none of it matters. And when I tried mushrooms, I felt the opposite of that. I felt a very deep sense of belonging. I felt very free from the inner critical voice that I would often, I remember, like, we had this big piece of paper and we were just coloring. And when it started to hit me, I remember drawing and being like, this is so awesome. And then thinking to myself, like, normally I would be analyzing how good this drawing was, not just appreciating it for what it is. And that sense of freedom, of needing to judge, was so, just like this feeling of unconditional love washed over me. And it changed my whole life. Like, and I've definitely experimented over the years, and yeah, I find it to be really beneficial and amazing. So
This makes sense. I have recently looked into, I got some sense of the actual physical changes that some of the psychedelics cause, and it's a disconnection with your, prefrontal cortex judgments, your executive decision making, and also other one with your hippocampus, your memories. So it's sort of like you don't have the weight of your memories on you, you don't have the weight of judgment on you. Then suddenly you're free to just do, whereas before you'd have this viewing eye on you, like, what are you, are you sure about?
right.
Which is not as free. So that
Right.
made sense completely. Then it matched with everybody's description. I couldn't get the sense of it until I got this. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. It just takes away the weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, increases the neural connections, and also very, depending on what you're taking, like in terms of the ratio or how you're ingesting it, it'll affect your visual perception, and you can see so much more beauty and almost like a universe within something pretty benign, like a flower or a rock. And getting in touch with awe in that way is just, it's very powerful. I highly recommend it. But it's not required. I mean, you can get to that state in other ways.
That's what I was going to add in. Is it, now that after the fact, is it possible or not really? Is it actually a physical change? Can you have the mindset you had while on some sort of psychedelic without being on one, or is it too much of a reach?
I think
like, can you pull back to that and be like, okay, I felt like this, I didn't think of this, okay, now when it shows up I just disregard? Or is that tough? It's not.
I mean, I definitely think, like, any experience, it'll make an imprint, and you can go back to have the recall. Is it as intense? No. I mean, no. But actually, something that I'm working on right now, it's called Havaya. And it's basically a way for people to come together in mutual beingness or presence. a safe environment where people of like mind can come together and almost be in a meditative state, but not be meditating, be just sitting together, being, and whatever comes up in the present moment as a co-creation is welcomed and a collaborative experience. And it's in development. There's going to be an app. It's going to be like an Uber and Airbnb, an app where you can find these meetings all over town. It's launching in LA, but it's been in Brussels for 12 years. And that has been the closest thing. I mean, even doing hours and hours of Kundalini yoga and meditation and all these things, like when it's not a shared experience, for me personally, it hasn't had as significant of an impact.
Take that non-Havaya-like things, because you cannot meet that level. That's a nice, I get it. It's that nice thing when there's a good feeling and it feels like you wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Would that be the case?
For sure, 100%. Yeah, exactly. This sense of unconditional love washing over my being, it's priceless. It's really cool.
Yes. The last thing I want to include is it's two things. There's no limit. But one is, what is one question you have for me? And then after that, if you have a message for all of humanity. But first, what's the message you have for me, the host of this episode? Does anything?
What is your favorite creative thing that you're working on right now?
Well, I recently just stole the idea for Havaya from somebody, so I'm going to be branching this out to thousands of people. It's just, I came up with it in the sandy beaches. Kidding. Wait, can you say it again? Can you repeat that?
What's your favorite creative endeavor that you're working on right now?
Well, they do all connect. So I would say the show, but then I also write, so I create that. I'd probably say the show, and then I freestyle rap sometimes in the car, so that's always wonderful. I can't almost never stop making, so that one's a tough one, because then I write stuff.
Okay, so to get more specific, is there a certain topic that you're writing about right now that has you most excited, or a certain conversation on the podcast that you are most excited about? Something like that, like a topic.
So like the first thing that comes to mind is key moments, for example, while we're communicating here and connect like in a deep form. That's my favorite parts of existence. Okay, what else are we here for?
Oh, cool.
But putting that to the side, I would like to have like 2 guests on at a time later on this year, have a co-guest, and then a co-host and then a guest. I want to do one in a different language later this year, where I take it from Google Translate. I say it in their language from Google Translate. They answer in their language. I did the whole episode in their language. I don't know exactly what they answered until I translate it back later, but it's functional, and they'd be like, what? How did he do an episode in German? I would have thought. So branching out in that form. I've been branching out with music I've been listening to. I never listened to certain kinds of music I listen to now. So the branching out is key, and the neighborhood's branching out. And then me connecting with more. I like for me, my favorite place is when there's a lot happening. Like, okay, Kat, gotta go. I gotta go do the thing. I gotta send the thing. And the guy, I gotta email that guy. Now I'm gonna have those 2 guests. Oh, your dad is a science person. What's his name? We can interview him. We can have him on the thing, then have him on the co-guest. Speaking of your dad, does he do science or?
I mean, right now he's a math teacher, but he's a scientist too.
Oh, that's cool. Is there any specific category of science that he was into?
Chemistry and microbiology.
That's cool. Yeah, because you mentioned Richard Dawkins earlier. I thought, like, if he's an evolutionary biologist, then they're right along with each other.
Oh my God, no. I mean, I think he would love to be. probably informed enough to have a conversation about it if you're into having a conversation with him. He's like a crazy genius person.
Well, that's unappealing for me to talk to. Are you kidding me? He's a crazy. Now I'm supposed to be like, no, you know what? No, it's fine. No big deal. Crazy genius.
It's like a book. Yeah, I can connect. No, he is like a book.
Oh, he is a book. Never mind writing a book. That's the being versus doing. That might be a thing. I might be talking with your dad at some point. Okay, watch out. Now, and then the last thing, keeping it just kind of functional nature. What is a message you have for all people of the planet that you would want them to know for themselves or their well-being? On the spot. 7.8 billion people, I think. I don't know the exact numbers. 4 billion more than 40 years ago.
To focus on I am here now.
That is simple and straightforward. Focus on I am here now. That's it. I'll leave it there. Kat, it's difficult to end the episode with Kat. So for future podcasts, just let the people know, like at this point, you better cut it off. I don't care how enjoyable it is. You get out of here, random host person.
Well, let's do it again. This is fun.
That would be fabulous. And I'm taking you up on that at some point when you least expect it. It won't be tomorrow because you'd expect it. So not then. Some point. Kat.
Or maybe I wouldn't expect it.
That's true. I'm so meta. You can't keep up with this. Okay. I'm doing, and I'm going there. And next, I'll be like, hey, Kat, can I have you back on? Because I just had your dad on the show and you didn't even know about it. Unexpected. So much. Kat,
cool.
I would like to thank you for having been on this episode number 279 of the show and bringing forth all your thoughts with all of us.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You know it. And we are out.